AC बंद कर दो ना और फैन बंद कर दो AC रहने दो नहीं तो फिर सफोकेशन हो गई okay now children let us come to this chemical right chemical reactions and equations
AC दोनों भी चालू करना
हाँ चालू शाम को बंद करो ठीक है ना now what is this chapter dealing with chemical reactions reactions means what reactions means change or changes okay what kind of changes are you actually observing for example when you talk about ripening of fruits okay ripening of fruits is nothing but change of color yes or no
yes sir
ripening of fruits or when you actually cut an apple you get एक एप्पल को जब तुम कट करोगे तो उसमें क्या होगा रेडिश कलर दिखाई देगा due to the formation of iron oxide okay or we can say for example the process of digestion of food okay then digestion of food is nothing but what kind of change we can say but then what kind of changes are we observing over there you're finding that ripening of fruits में क्या हो रहा है that substance A changes into B okay or you find for example you take some coal okay and you burn in air okay and what you will get you will find for example it gives you carbon dioxide and ashes plus large amount of heat and this coal is basically made up of what carbon okay okay and this air is made basically out of this air there is nitrogen and oxygen reacts basically okay na अभी क्या हो जाएगा for example this particular carbon has converted into carbon dioxide so for this carbon oxygen is missing with respect to carbon dioxide with respect to oxygen okay carbon dioxide is having more carbon but this is missing with what carbon over here that means there is a change in the composition of these substances okay that means this starting material is different from ending material and yeah combustion and therefore at the same time these substances which are starting material are called as what reactants okay and the substance which is yes here it is one product so what we can say we can get more number of products so this kind of changes where the reactants or starting material is changing into what products which are altogether different then that type of change is said to be a chemical change or chemical changes formation of new substance okay but when you talk about for example these changes then you will say sir if suppose I am talking about let us say ice cubes okay अगर तुम्हारे पास ice cubes है and you just at a particular temperature and at a particular pressure okay okay this ice cubes when you start slightly heat it okay or keep it above 0 degrees Celsius or keep at room temperature ice cube starts melting and converting into liquid water when you actually analyze this liquid water and you compare with what the composition of ice cubes they contain same kind of composition I mean this type of change is said to be a physical change no new substance is formed okay it involves lesser amount of energy it involves for example lesser vigorous condition compared to chemical change this involves lesser time that involves more time basically right okay likewise for example a chemical change is nothing but called as what chemical reactions am I right
yes,
okay
sir.
but when you find for example a chemical reaction taking place there are some important changes you will observe what is that you will find that there is a change in the color of the reactants with respect to products or there is an evolution of gas
yes
or there is some kind of energy change right energy change means what in certain reactions heat is involved like for example when you talk about burning of coal it's an exothermic reaction right? Burning of fuel is nothing but what? Exothermic reactions. Heat is evolved means what? It is exothermic. Simple. That means sometimes the heat loss is there, okay, and sometimes there is a gain of heat. Okay? Now gain of heat is nothing but what? When heat is absorbed, how will you come to know heat is absorbed? The vessel will become colder. Colder means what? Colder in the sense, now how do you come to know it's an endothermic reaction? Like suppose now it's very warm outside, clear or hot in fact, and while coming from the school you feel tired because of dehydration. What do you see? You find a big tree, in front of you, so you feel like sitting under the tree, beneath the tree for some time, and you feel cooler. What is the reason? The reason is that plants are actually preparing food at that moment, in the afternoon or in the presence of sunlight, and finally what is happening? They are taking the energy from the surrounding, and you are one of the surrounding for them. So the energy is taken from withdrawn from your system, and finally you feel cooler. Endothermic process, photosynthesis. Okay, so it is an endothermic process. So that means that whenever you talk about any chemical reaction and you feel cooler, means your energy is taken away from that particular due to this, what do you say? For example, this process of photosynthesis. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So evolution of gas. Okay. Likewise, for example, some insoluble solid being formed, which is called as what? Insoluble solid, like precipitate. Like for example, milk converting into curd is nothing but a chemical change. Okay? Why? Because curd, there's a formation of precipitate, and it is nothing but conversion of, for example, fat into fatty acid. Okay? So ये अपना हो गया chemical changes. Now what is important over here is that when we talk about, for example, these reactions, I have to actually what? Let us say interpret these reactions or write the reactions in a symbolic form. So anything which actually what is written in the symbolic form, in other words, equations are nothing but what? A symbolic representation of chemical reactions or chemical changes. ठीक है? तो ये second part है topic. इतना आगे समझे?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? Now start writing this. Then we'll proceed further. एक AC बंद करना है ना तुमको?
Yes.
No. एक AC बंद कर दीजिए. Straight ये वाला बंद करो. ऊपर ही आ रहा है. एक AC जो पीछे वाला. दोनों बंद हो गए. Secondly, one is that. कौन सा? अभी क्या हुआ? अच्छा 2 मिनट के बाद चालू करना. Write in the same format. एक ही चालू करो. बस राइट. थैंक यू. Cutting of wood is what?
Physical change.
Physical. Tearing out of paper is what?
Physical
Physical.
change.
Melting of ice.
Physical change.
Burning of a candle.
Chemical change.
Chemical as well as physical. दोनों है. Because the melting of wax हो रहा है.
And burning of gas.
Physical as well as chemical.
Addition of gas.
Digestion of food.
Chemical change.
Okay. Respiration.
Chemical change.
So you can ask me this kind of thing. Okay. just write. Okay, done.
Yes.
Okay, now let's come to the next part of the problem, and that is, for example, here, what is the chemical reaction over, I mean, how to represent this chemical reaction? That means the equation is nothing but a representation of a chemical reaction. Okay, na? Representation of a chemical reaction. Why? Because representation क्यों कर रहे हैं? Because it is a short form of a chemical reaction. Because while writing a reaction, you have to write lot of words to explain that. Clear? So we represent it in a short form. In other words, the equation is a short form of a chemical reaction. We can say together. Okay. But it's like saying this way. Suppose, like for example, you're walking on the road and you find this kind of, for example, symbol over there. क्या है?
Parking.
That means you can park the car over there. The NMMC has given you this permission to park the car at this place wherever it's given, just like outside over here. But suppose if they give this way,
No parking. No parking.
clear? Likewise, for example, if they show this circle and finally what, you can say that this is something which is on a road where they have given the direction both. That means two-way traffic.
Yes.
But suppose if they say this way, it is not.
One
Means that
way.
you can go this way, but you cannot actually what, come from this direction. Okay, that means what is important from this, for example, on the road we cannot write full words over there. That one-way traffic, two-way traffic. I mean, so much of effort, so much of material will be required over there. So better to actually write it in a symbolic manner. Okay, so that's what is important over here. So those who are not able to actually speak or not able to listen, okay, they have got sign language. Like two friends, staying across at a distance, for example, one building over here, and then there's a sign language. The early morning they want to actually interact with each other, so they go for sign language. Because when they start shouting, so the other people will get disturbed. Okay, so that is the best way to actually so that is called sign language. Of course, this is a symbolic representation. Let's take, for example, one example which is given. Okay, like suppose you take magnesium ribbon. Okay, magnesium ribbon आपने लिया. Okay, ribbon means a strip over there. Now this magnesium ribbon. Now suppose if I want to explain you, okay, a chemical reaction which I'm doing in the lab. So I will write this reaction in a statement form. I mean, if I have to explain to the children, so I have to definitely write in the statement form. A statement says that magnesium ribbon is, burns in air. Okay, dazzling, with a dazzling bright flame or white flame, we can say. Brightly, we can use the word bright. Okay, dazzling brightly or with the white flame, forming a layer of white layer of magnesium oxide. Okay, what a statement. Now this statement which I am telling you, by the time I tell the children, they start sleeping. So what we have to do, we have to tell you the short form, and I will try to explain them in, for example, a word form. So how will I can divide the statement into parts. I'll say magnesium ribbon burns in air. Second part, burns with a dazzling white flame. And there is, of course, this is an observation. Clear? Forming a white layer of magnesium oxide. तो इसको लिखना है. Forming also is one more part of this. Clear? अब इसको how will you write in the for example word form, I mean a short form with respect to the statement.
Magnesium plus
Okay.
oxygen.
Short form. Okay. Now how will I write this? I will write in this manner. Okay. For example, magnesium ribbon. I will write magnesium only. Right? Magnesium burns in air means it is interacting with air. So plus sign. Oxygen इधर लिख देंगे because oxygen is nothing but one of the component which is reactive. Okay. And forming.
Heat.
Okay. That is heating. Because you're burning in the flame. Okay. And it's burning brightly in a jar of oxygen. Forming means this arrow. ठीक है, white layer of magnesium oxide. ठीक है ना, ये हम लोग ऐसा लिखेंगे. Okay, नीचे चाहिए तो white layer. But again, children, this is also a little bit more. Can we actually have a shorter form of this? Then definitely I can go for example the symbolic way. So I can write in the form of what? This is a word equation. Okay. And this is the actual equation, we can say. Actual equation or actual symbolic representation. ठीक है? The actual symbolic equation में magnesium का क्या symbol या formula है? We have to write always remember equation in the form of formula. The symbol in the formula for magnesium is Mg. And the oxygen it is definitely what? O2. ठीक है ना? And of course you can write the physical state. अगर वो solid है तो small s you write. And if it is a liquid, you can write L. If it is a gas, then you write G. And if it is dissolved in water, आपको aqueous लिखना है. ठीक है ना?
Is it necessary to write?
Better to write. I mean, whenever it's required. Okay? Not given or not known, then no need to write. ठीक है? Gas. ये liquid लिख दीजिए. Not necessary. ठीक है ना? Then this is solid. Followed? Now, magnesium plus oxygen, leave some gap over here and arrow also यहाँ पे gap छोड़ना है. जैसे कि easily discriminate between the then what is important over here? Will give you what? Magnesium oxide. ठीक है? It is solid. ठीक है? Now what is happening over here? That heating sign you can show by triangle. Clear? And if suppose it is producing heat, तो आपको यहाँ पे heat लिखना है. If it is absorbing heat, then you write minus heat. and जब heat absorb हो रहा है इसमें, okay, तो यहाँ पे क्या सकता है? You can show an arrow and you can say absorbing heat. But if it is giving out heat, so but we don't write it this manner. We show plus heat over here means heat loss and heat gain means minus heat. वहाँ का minus heat यानी यहाँ पे plus heat होगी. वो लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है फिलहाल. So this is an actual equation, but this is unbalanced क्योंकि magnesium एक दिख रहा है, इधर भी एक दिख रहा है, no doubt about it. But oxygen इधर दो atom है, इधर एक ही atom. Unbalanced. So this equation is unbalanced. But we know very well matter is conserved. Mass is conserved or matter is conserved. So we can say, for example, अगर unbalanced, okay, unbalanced equation है, so we have to balance it. Why? Because you say, sir, two atoms have become one. Where is the other atom of oxygen is gone? I mean, you have to account for each and everything. But chartered accountant, an accountant is there, and if suppose you have given him, suppose for example, $100 to get something, he is to account for each and every pie of that 100 rupees. Then only we can call it, yes, both the sides are telling, yes or no. Okay, the actual unbalanced equation, तो इसको balance करना है. Balance कैसे करेंगे? सबसे पहले where the number of atoms are more maximum, यहाँ पे एक atom है, यहाँ पे दो है, यहाँ पे भी दो है, yes or no?
Yes.
So क्या करना पड़ेगा हम लोग को? Which atom is maximum? Oxygen is maximum over here. दो है, इधर एक ही है, तो इसको balance करना है तो 2 इधर multiply. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? What about this? 2 magnesium यहाँ पे हो गया. Oxygen तो already balanced है. What about magnesium?
2 mg.
Yes. Okay. Now if you want to verify this, there is a verification. Verification. ठीक है ना? Verification कैसे करना है? when you start balancing any chemical reaction, you see how many elements are involved in that. Magnesium is involved, oxygen is involved. So both the side you write. So this is the reactant, that is the product. Okay? Now you can start balancing from any side, reactant side, product side, OAP side. Magnesium how many? One atom. Here magnesium how many? Two atoms. Here also two, balanced. How many oxygen? Two. Two. And here balance. Verification. Because yeah, reaction is simple, but when you have a big number of reactants and products, then this verification becomes very much useful for us. Okay? Any doubt?
No,
कुछ भी doubt है पूछो. Done na? Okay. Now let us come to one more reaction where I will give you this. Have you written all these things? ठीक है ना?
No, sir.
लिख लो आराम से. Written ना? आराम से. Don't be in a hurry. ठीक है? Okay. So this word equation which can be transformed into the chemical equation, and this is the last one, is a balanced chemical equation. Okay. But before we go for one more balancing, we have to understand one thing. Okay, that every chemical reaction involves some conditions. Okay, now that means there are certain, there are definitely different reactions which require certain conditions, like eligibility we can say, or conditions for which the reactions are actually what, on which they depend, will be first is actually what temperature. ठीक है, एक reaction एक particular temperature पे optimum चलता है. Temperature is an important factor. What temperature represents? It represents kinetic energy which is given to the reactant molecules. Okay? I mean, temperature measures the kinetic energy, because what happens when the matter is always in the continuous motion? So when matter is in the continuous motion means they are possessing kinetic energy. Okay? तो जब matter, कोई भी matter अगर अपने life में पड़ा है, matter in our surrounding, उसमें क्या लिखा है कि matter will be in continuous motion, especially gases या liquids या solid में थोड़ा mean and extreme position रहेगा. Like this particular duster you will find still, but little bit movement is there depending upon the temperature rise. ठीक है ना? Okay. So what is happening over here? It measures the kinetic energy. That means, for example, our body temperature is how much? 37 degrees or 37.5? 37, na? Okay, 37 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, clear? All the reactions which are taking place, is nothing but like digestion, respiration are optimum. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? But ये digestion, अगर ये temperature low होगा, तो process slow हो सकता है. Because that depends upon kinetic energy. अगर molecules के पास energy नहीं है, ठीक है? Digest करने का, then definitely, for example, digestion will be slow. Okay? But this temperature is not the only factor which actually what affects the chemical reaction. There are other factors also. Okay, what is that? For example, catalyst. What is a catalyst? Catalyst is a substance which actually what enhances the speed of a chemical reaction. Like for in our body, okay, enzymes. अगर enzymes नहीं होंगे तो ये temperature will not be enough. Can you tell me अगर enzyme अगर नहीं होंगे body में तो ये reaction 2000 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे होगा. That means अपने body का temperature 2000 डिग्री सेल्सियस हो सकता है. But 37 पे digestion हो गया because of enzymes. Let me tell you one thing. Suppose you will say, sir, I want to carry out the digestion at 37 degrees Celsius only with no enzymes.
Time taken will be
more. That means यही अगर आपने जो दोपहर में जो खाना खाया, okay, can you tell me next meal कब आप लेंगे?
next day.
हाँ?
Next
year लेंगे. आप कब लेंगे?
Next day, sir.
हाँ, next day you will take. और तो next year लोगे तो.
Next year.
मैं आज जो lunch you had, okay, अगर ये enzyme नहीं होगा, listen to my question. तो ये जो meal आपने खाया दोपहर में, नेक्स्ट भूख कब लगेगा? या ये पूरी तरह डाइजेशन कब होगा? एनी गेसेस? इन्होंने बोला नेक्स्ट डे. आप क्या बोल रहे हैं? व्हाट्स योर नेम? ऋषिका इज सेइंग हाँ नेक्स्ट डे, यानी एक दिन के बाद 24 आवर्स. यस और नो?
Yes, sir.
नेक्स्ट डे, वन डे. ओके. व्हाट्स योर नेम चाइल्ड?
After 2 days, just sleep.
नहीं क्या जसलीन? जे ना? Jasleen, right? Jasleen, what do you say? I mean, any guesses? Huh?
Few days.
Few days यानी 5 दिन लिखूं कि 10 दिन लिखूं? 14 days. 2-3 दिन. यानी still 3 days लिखती है. आपका नाम क्या है? हाँ, शौर्य. SHAURY. शौर्य, आपको क्या गेस लग रहा है? कितने दिन के बाद आपको खाना पड़ेगा? 1.5 days. 1.5 year. अच्छा 1.5 day. ठीक है 1.5 day. 1.5 दिन के बाद आप खाना खाएंगे. And what's your name? Parth. Parth, what do you feel?
1 week.
क्या लग रहा है?
1
1
week.
week. यानी 7 days आपको लगता है. ठीक है? ये आप days में काउंट करें. No, it will take 50 साल के बाद और एक खाना. Can you imagine this digestion process will become so slow at this temperature if no enzymes are there? Not 2 days, 10 days, 1 month, 2 years, 50 years. यानी आपका आधा लाइफ इसमें खत्म हो जाएगा. Okay? well. Catalyst, that means enzymes are very important, which actually what we don't give importance because nature has given these enzymes in our body, protein matter, they are protein matter basically. The enzyme is a catalyst. They are biochemical catalyst. तो bio means अपना शरीर bio है और chemical वो protein. Okay, and likewise, for example, one more factor which actually affects, what is that? Pressure. Now pressure is basically in terms of atmosphere. Okay, atmospheric pressure. I mean, we express in atmospheric pressure, that means what? ATM. Now what is this atmospheric pressure? Okay, जो pressure, like this is the earth crust, okay, or earth surface, and there are layers of air, yes or no?
Yes,
And the layers of air, what they do, they exert a pressure on a particular area. So the force exerted by these molecules, okay, on a particular area, force of particles of air on a unit area is known as what? Air pressure or atmospheric pressure. ठीक है ना? तो ये atmospheric pressure, वैसे हम लोग वहाँ पे chemical reaction में when we apply pressure, okay, by keeping the vessel closed, clear, and then pumping in more, molecules into that particular reaction vessel, that means we are exerting more pressure. Just like simple thing like pressure cooker. What is that pressure cooker? A vessel on the vent is like applying a pressure, and the food gets softened faster. While likewise the principal school teacher or principal gives a timetable of the examination, you get pressure. Sir, next year, I mean after 1 week we are having exam, we have got the schedule. So the idea is this pressure is nothing but something like, for example, forcing you to actually go back to your study table and start studying for the examination, as a matter of fact. ठीक है? तो ये pressure बहुत जरूरी है. So likewise the molecules को अगर हम लोग एक closed vessel में और उसको volume कम कर देंगे, okay, means piston apply करके, that means we are applying more pressure. So the pressure is expressed in atmosphere. So there are three important factors. One is temperature, second is pressure, and third is catalyst. It's not necessary that all of them will be required, but if I want to increase the speed of a reaction, I have to go for it. Clear? It's like, for example, pressure and catalyst and temperature. They may all three may be required in a chemical reaction. ठीक है ना? Okay? तो अपने इसमें क्या तीनों का requirement है. अपने body का जो digestion process है, temperature भी required है, enzyme भी required है, और pressure means atmospheric pressure, which is this digestion is taking place under this room pressure, which is because we are existing in that room pressure. तो हम लोग बोल सकते हैं this is happening at this particular pressure. Clear? So write down this before we go for the next practice. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Done? Okay, Sapta. Okay, let us go for one reaction balancing. Okay, and then we'll proceed for questions which are there before we go for the types of chemical reactions. Next lecture में types हम लोग करेंगे. This lecture we'll try to just get the feel of this topic. ठीक है ना? Okay, now let's come to the three factors already you know. Okay ना?
Yes, sir.
Now let us come to the next balancing of chemical reaction, which is nothing but what. For example, if somebody says, sir, I mean this is a statement for whatever chemical reaction you are doing in the chemistry lab. The statement says that red hot iron is reacts with with steam, ठीक है, to form ferroso, ठीक है, ferrosulfuric oxide and hydrogen gas is given. Okay. Okay. There are two things over here you to understand one. I mean, like, this reaction can be carried out in a closed vessel,
Yes.
or this reaction can be carried out in open vessel. ठीक है ना? अगर कुछ स्पेसिफाई नहीं किया है कि वेसल क्लोज है, आपको समझना है ओपन वेसल में. That is, the reactions can take place in two ways: closed vessel or open. And door open कर दे तो reaction open vessel में होगा. ठीक है? So now हम लोग पहले open vessel का देख लेते हैं, because इसमें open vessel I mean mention नहीं किया है vessel closed है. I'll tell you what is the difference. Okay? But first understand this statement has to be written in the form of what? Word. ठीक है? तो word में लिखेंगे. So how will you write in word? Red hot iron. You can write iron. फिर इसके नीचे red hot लिखना है. Okay? Reacts with steam. Okay, giving you ferrosulfuric oxide.
Hydrogen.
Yes, ferrosulfuric oxide
Yes, hydrogen.
plus hydrogen.
Yes.
Hydrogen gas. ठीक है ना? Okay. And this is heat. Okay. यहाँ पे आप reacts की जगह पे heat है. Red hot लिखा है. It's understood, but no problem. I will write reaction because at your level you will write. Okay. Now what is important over here? This word equation I am writing in the form of what? Now actual equation, chemical equation you can say. ठीक है ना? But this equation will be unbalanced because पहले balance नहीं कर सकते unless and until we write the formula. ठीक है? तो red hot iron how will you write? इसके नीचे आप red hot लिख सकते हैं. Remember this. Okay? Plus steam. You have to specify आपको gas लिखना है because people will consider it to be water liquid. But steam रहेगा तो आपको हमेशा लिखना पड़ेगा. ठीक है? Heated. ठीक है? Ferrosulfuric oxide. The formula for ferrosulfuric oxide is Fe3O4, which is nothing but what? You can write in this manner also. But for balancing sake, this will be easier for you. This one. It's a mixture of ferrous oxide and ferric oxide. Because iron is an element which has got two valences, Fe+2 and Fe+3. Variable valence. जैसा कुछ लोगों का दो बैंक अकाउंट होता है, ओके, और कुछ लोगों का एक ही बैंक अकाउंट, एक ही बैलेंस, ठीक है, थ्रू आउट देयर लाइफ. प्लस हाइड्रोजन गैस, ठीक है ना? यस, हाँ, ट्रायंगल और H2 gas, yes, we can write. ठीक है ना? Okay, now this unbalanced equation. Now let me tell you one thing. Suppose this reaction is carried out with steam in a closed vessel. अगर ऐसा लिखा होगा, so what is happening over here? जब vessel close होता है, definitely pressure is there, but at same time, okay, pressure is more or less, you know, for example, definitely it's there as a pressure, but moreover, what is happening over here? What I am driving at, both the products are also, as the reaction is taking place, and we have closed the vessel, what is happening? These products are not going anywhere, especially the gases are not able to go out of the vessel. So what they do? They tend to react back. यानी ये हाइड्रोजन फिर से ऑक्सीजन को ले लेगा और कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा क्या? स्टीम में, और फिर आयन अकेला हो जाएगा. In other words, the reaction becomes reversible. That means it's like saying this to your parents, they start giving the gift to the children. As the children they grow up, as the amount of the products become more and more, they actually give a second thought of reverting those gifts back to the parents. Reversal. You go to the for your friend's birthday with a gift, you had good food over there, but in return, the friend gives you a return gift, which is happening most of the time, or sometimes it is not happening, but some people they give, some people they don't give. Now that reversal is what I'm thankful to, that you have come for my birthday and you have graced the occasion and you have accepted my food. I'm thankful to you. The gratitude, very important. Every day when you actually go to sleep, you give gratitude to your parents, your whoever, like you met throughout the day in the school, or so that gratitude is very important. That we are thankful. Hardly it takes 30 seconds. So here is a reversal basically, okay? And this reversal is why? Because vessel is closed. Vessel is closed. अगर vessel open रहेगा तो क्या होगा? React. Hydrogen, अगर suppose ये vessel open है तो I open this particular room, hydrogen goes out. Yes or no?
Yes.
Is there any chance of hydrogen to react back? No.
No.
Hydrogen is missing. ये अगर खाली इतना different. That means reaction can be two types: reversible and irreversible. Irreversible means reaction will be shown in one single arrow towards the product side. Reversible means what? Two half arrows. अभी आजकल इन लोग ऐसा भी शो कर देते हैं, दोनों full arrows दिखा देते हैं. पहले हम लोग ऐसा करते थे, half arrow, ये डायरेक्शन, ठीक है ना? बट अभी चलता है, ठीक है? अब ये मैं ऐसे ही बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि अभी 9th तुम्हारे 10th में ये रिएक्शन, तो क्लोज वेसल का अभी मत, जब आएगा तभी लोग देखेंगे. Okay, this is unbalanced. Now here I have to balance them. How will I balance it? How many, Jasleen, how many atoms of iron are there in this side? One. Water?
One.
Huh?
Three.
3 atoms.
So
Okay?
water, one H.
नहीं. Atoms कितने हैं water? हाँ, 2 हाइड्रोजन 1 ऑक्सीजन हो गए. यहाँ पे कितने हैं? 7.
2.
सबसे ज्यादा atoms इधर हैं. So now I have to balance that chemical equation.
2H.
Okay? Balanced chemical equation.
4H.
हाँ, एक मिनट. Just see. सबसे ज्यादा एटम ऑक्सीजन का है, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
तो यहाँ पे 1 ऑक्सीजन है, यहाँ पे 4 है, तो क्या करेंगे?
4H.
ठीक है? और फिर Fe3O4 ऐसे लिखते हैं. But the moment you put 4 oxygen, 8 हाइड्रोजन हो जाएंगे, yes or no?
Yes.
Here only 2
4
हाइड्रोजन.
hydrogen.
Yes. ठीक है?
And
Then
Fe is
here the moment you write, for example, Fe3O4, sorry, यहाँ पे 4H2O, ये तो balance हो गया. Now Fe is not shown over here. Here 3 Fe and here only 1. Here 3 Fe.
3F.
ठीक है? ये solid है, ये gas है, ये भी gas, ये solid है, this is the gas. Verification. इसका verify करना है. How will you verify? Okay?
Reactants and products.
Now you have to remember one thing. ठीक है? Write the first elements, कौन से elements involved in this reaction. FeH and O है. यहाँ पे भी FeH and O है. Sometimes when you write some elements excessively, you come to know from the reaction. ठीक है? Now start from Fe. 3 Fe.
3F.
कोई भी element से start कर सकते हैं. 8 हाइड्रोजन, 8 हाइड्रोजन, and then 8 हाइड्रोजन. How many oxygen? 4 oxygen, 4 oxygen. Bracket में डाल के लिखो क्योंकि it looks like 40. Okay, perfect. You understand?
Yes.
The difference between closed vessel and open vessel. Start. Okay. NCERT technical है भी?
No, sir.
नहीं. Question number 5 है हम लोग को जानना है. नहीं, first you write down, then we will discuss about. ठीक है? NCERT एक book में 5th question को देखना है.
So in the volume it will be.
It will be there. Don't worry. पहले complete करो.
answer.
Done, na? Okay, let us go for question number 5. I mean, of course, in NCRT, वहाँ पे fifth नहीं होगा. देखना होगा. I'll tell you which question it is.
The NCERT example question था.
नहीं, NCRT exercise पे आना. NCRT जो exercise है ना,
Yes.
go for the NCRT exercise.
Translate the following.
हाँ, yes, that question. देखना था.
7.
Question number 5th, right?
7.
7th question or 5th question?
5th.
5th question, yes. Write the balanced chemical equation, ठीक है? For the following chemical reaction, ठीक है? Let's go for this. और कौन सा question है इसमें? एक ही है. चलो, no problem. ये लिखा सबने?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's come to, for example, this reaction which is, क्या लिखा है उधर? Hydrogen plus chlorine ना? बुक में नाइट्रोजन दी है actually.
Nitrogen.
इधर नाइट्रोजन दी है.
Yes, sir.
ये पुराना बुक है. कौन सा है which?
So the new one.
ये पुराना बुक है. हाँ, so give me read the reaction. Question number 5 ना?
Yes.
NCRT. NCRT. Okay, and exercise. Okay, then ये 5th question. Please read out the question.
Hydrogen gas combines with nitrogen.
नहीं, उसके ऊपर क्या लिखा है? Translate
Translate the following statements into chemical
the
equations.
following
Statements
statements.
into chemical equations.
थोड़ा 1 मिनट लगेगा. Statements into
Chemical equations.
chemical equation
And then balance.
and balance the reaction. Translate the following statement into chemical equation and balance them. And balance. ठीक है ना? चलो ऋषि का पढ़िए. पहला क्वेश्चन क्या है?
Hydrogen gas combines
Hydrogen gas combines with
nitrogen.
okay, gas combines with nitrogen gas
To form ammonia.
to form ammonia gas. Ammonia is a gas, तो इसीलिए मैं भी लिख देता हूँ. ठीक है? उधर gas नहीं दिया है वो प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है? How to write this? Hydrogen gas, right? Reacting with nitrogen gas, giving you ammonia. NH3 is the formula. ठीक है? इसको बैलेंस करना है. ना इसमें एक है, 2 एटम है, इसमें 2 है, इसमें 4 है. ठीक है ना? उधर से बैलेंस शुरू करो. अब यहाँ पे ऑड है, यहाँ पे इवन है, तो इसको इवन करना चाहिए. जब भी ऑड और इवन का कॉम्बिनेशन रहेगा तो ट्राई टू मेक द ऑड इवन. 6 हो गए, 6 हाइड्रोजन यहाँ पे यस नाइट्रोजन आपने कर. ठीक है? फिर मैं सिंपल देखो. हाँ, प्लीज राइट डाउन, बिकॉज क्या होगा, राइट डाउन ऑन द टॉप NCRT एक्सरसाइज क्वेश्चन नंबर 5. Writing practice is a must. In 2 years you could not write much. I mean, you were writing, but not. It was only 50 or 25%. 100% के लिए 200% वर्क करना है. क्यों? क्योंकि जो आपका बैकलॉग हो गया उसको ओवरकम करने के लिए 200% राइटिंग वर्क हैज टू बी डन. ठीक है? लिखा?
Yes.
नहीं, आराम से लिखिए. Second question. लिखो आराम से. Below me. Well, here I will write. नहीं, एक रिएक्शन एक पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, व्हाई फुल कंसंट्रेशन शुड बी ऑन दैट रिएक्शन. आई कैन राइट बिलो, नो प्रॉब्लम, बट क्या होगा, इट विल बी डाइग्रेसिव. तो आपको ये इक्वेशन दिखेगा, दो इक्वेशन. ओके, टारगेट एक ही रखना है. What is that? Only one equation at one point of time. Second क्या है? Only. Part. Read out.
Hydrogen sulfide.
Hydrogen sulfide. Now directly write it. ठीक है?
Gas.
H2 hydrogen
Gas,
gas, sulfide
burns.
gas reacts with
Burns
in air, right? Na?
gives you water and sulfur.
And sulfur dioxide. Very good. That means यहाँ पे heatings and required. Hydrogen water ना?
Yeah.
वाटर लिक्विड है कि गैस है, कुछ दिया नहीं. ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है, अब हम लोग क्या करते हैं, बैलेंसिंग. ठीक है, बैलेंसिंग कैसे करेंगे, इसको लेंगे मार्कर. हाँ, जस्ट लाइक हाउ मेनी एटम्स, 3, दिस इज 2, दिस इज 3, दिस इज 3. ठीक है ना, तो 1 2 3 जगह 3, नो प्रॉब्लम. हम लोग डायरेक्टली अभी यहाँ पे जाते हैं. ठीक है, अभी ऑड एंड इवन देखते हैं लोग. कौन सा एलिमेंट ई सेड ऑड है, ऑक्सीजन को देखने का. नॉर्मली ऑक्सीजन एक बहुत ही डेंजरस एलिमेंट है. आई मीन फॉर अस रेस्पिरेशन इज वेरी गुड, फॉर बैलेंसिंग इट इज डिफिकल्ट. ठीक है, ऑक्सीजन क्या होता है, तो एक साइड ऑड होता है, एक साइड इवन होता है, तो उसको पहले ट्राई करना है. आई मीन दैट शुड बी द लास्ट एलिमेंट, बट इन दिस केस 3 जगह ऑक्सीजन आ रहा है. तो जब 3 जगह ऑक्सीजन आ रहा है तो उसको ट्राई करना है पहले. इट्स अ ट्रायल एंड एरर मेथड. ठीक है, बिकॉज़ क्यों हम लोग इसको ट्राई कर रहे हैं, हाइड्रोजन बैलेंस्ड है. तुम बोलोगे सर अगर ऑक्सीजन को लास्ट बैलेंस करना है तो आप पहले क्यों बैलेंस कर रहे हैं, इसका रीजन है हाइड्रोजन देखो बैलेंस्ड है, सल्फर बैलेंस्ड है, अब उसको कैसे अनबैलेंस करेंगे. जो चीज अनबैलेंस है उसको पहले देखना. तो इसमें फॉर्चुनेटली और अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऑक्सीजन को पहले बैलेंस करना पड़ता है. अदरवाइज ऑक्सीजन विल बी द आई मीन ऑल एलिमेंट्स व्हिच आर कमिंग फॉर लीस्ट नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स, उसको पहले बैलेंस करना है. देन सेकंड लास्ट एलिमेंट हाइड्रोजन एंड द लास्ट एलिमेंट शुड बी ऑक्सीजन. एलिमेंट्स व्हिच आर कमिंग लीस्ट नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स पहले उसको बैलेंस करना है. और ऐसे करते करते जो ज्यादा आ रहा है, फिर लास्ट में सेकंड लास्ट एलिमेंट हाइड्रोजन एंड लास्ट एलिमेंट ऑक्सीजन. ओके, रिमेंबर ना. एनीवे 2 इधर है, 3 इधर है, तो इसको इक्वल ये 2 कर दे. क्यों, इवन करना है. तो 2 and 2 4 यहाँ पे 2 ही है, तो हम लोग क्या करेंगे. बट एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज, अभी 2 मत लिखना, इवन कर दिया उन्होंने, छोड़ दो फिलहाल, क्योंकि उसकी वजह से दूसरा एलिमेंट अनबैलेंस हो रहा है ना. 4 हाइड्रोजन हो गए, तो इधर क्या किया, अब हाइड्रोजन इधर बैलेंस हो गया, बट सल्फर अनबैलेंस कर दिया उसने. 2 सल्फर तो इधर. तो अब तब जाके क्या करना पड़ेगा, नाउ जस्ट सी दिस 2 ऑक्सीजन एंड 4 ऑक्सीजन 6 आया समझ में आपको. पहले भी मैं डायरेक्ट 3 लिख सकता था, लेकिन क्या हुआ कि आई वांटेड टू शो स्टेप बाय स्टेप. तो सबसे पहले क्या किया उन्होंने, व्हाट इज द स्टेप ओवर हियर, फर्स्ट एक्चुअली व्हाट ऑक्सीजन आई मेड इट even, yes or no?
Yes.
That means, and therefore what happened, because of that hydrogen became unbalanced. Yes or no? Or next element hydrogen got balanced. ठीक है, and hydrogen के बाद sulfur was balanced, and then finally oxygen, okay, was finally balanced. ये लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, बस I mean, but just to show you कि कैसे बैलेंसिंग किया है. I think so time is up.
Yes.
ठीक है, तो समझ में आया.
Yes.
ये खाली एक पॉइंट लिख दीजिए बस, और अदर थिंग्स विल कम टू नो. What you write, make oxygen even, oxygen even on whichever side. I mean I try to follow that. ये सब रूल्स में नहीं दिए है, this is through experience only. जब तुम एक्सपीरियंस करोगे, अब उसमें 3 रिएक्शन आई थिंक सो दिए हैं. 4 और 4 ना.
So 2 more.
2 more, so 2 will be homework for you. ठीक है ना. Next time हम लोग मिलते हैं और we will try to work. Even if you don't get, don't worry, I will do it on the board. ठीक है, चलो, thank you very much, take care. Bye.